Today we're going to take a look at the best farms right now in Where Winds Meet that will get your character upgraded, give you some of the best resources, and even give you secret abilities that will make things a lot easier in the long run. As always, if you end up enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and let's dive right in. Now, coming up to number 1, there's a way to farm an infinite amount of stones and ointments that we use in leveling up our martial arts skills. This is simply done by just farming some of the mobs and the elites in outposts, but without fully clearing out the outpost, letting us pretty much reset all of the enemies inside. So let me give you an example. Let's say that we need some of these blue stone locks that we can find in some of the outposts in the first region, but it goes the same with the ointments and other similar mats as well. In this case, what I can do is just round up the majority of the enemies inside of that outpost, but leaving at least 1 or 2 still alive. Once we have taken down the mobs over here, I can collect all of the resources from their bodies, but at least 1 or other enemy is still alive within that outpost. So from this point on, if we just teleport to any nearby waypoint and then make our way back at the same outpost, you're going to notice that every single enemy has fully respawned because technically we haven't fully cleared out that location, meaning that there's nothing prohibiting us from doing this on repeat for as many times as it takes for us to get all of the resources. In this case, if you round up like 5 or 6 enemies, that's going to be at least 6 of these stones per run, which is not going to take too much, like 20 to 30 seconds depending on your build. Technically speaking, we have another alternative, which is going to the battle pass shop right here and using some of our tokens to purchase these weekly martial arts upgrade chests. However, these are going to be limited at only 2 per week, meaning that if you run through them, you're going to have to resort to other means. The other one I showed you doesn't cost anything but some of your time, and it also goes really quickly. Which brings us to point number 2, and you're not going to want to skip on hunting either, especially for the coarse fur and also some of the other hides from bear and eventually sheep as well. This is going to be used throughout the entire enhancing process of your armor especially. And trust me, it's going to make a huge difference going from a bonus of only 200 HP per piece to over 1000 per piece. And in this case, you will notice that lots of creatures actually drop the coarse fur. Deer, elk, wolves, and even boar, and we can easily mark these and have them revealed on our map permanently. I highly recommend focusing on the deer because they don't fight back. They also run in larger groups of at least 5 or 6 many times, so they are easy prey and they will give you a lot of these. Now, technically speaking, you can also consume some of your jade fish or even your coins to purchase them directly from general goods vendors. So for example, if we were to go right here into our shop, going to offers, exchange shop, and then season shop, yes, I know it sucks, we do have a weekly life supply support box, about 10 of them that we can purchase for 80 jade fish a piece. However, I don't really recommend spending the jade fish on something like this. Alternatively, what you can do is use the general goods vendors that you find in various towns and even villages. So for example, if you go to Heaven's Pier, one of them right here has a 20 weekly stock of bear pelt that will also be used at various points in the leveling stage or the enhancing stage. However, if you're looking for the coarse fur, you can also purchase some from the Harvest Fall village. The general goods vendor here has a weekly cap of 99 that you can purchase for those coins as well. For weapons, on the other hand, getting the ores is relatively simple. We still have a similar chest we can buy also from the vendors I just talked about. However, you can also find them in a lot of the caves, especially the Gleaming Abyss has a lot of the stones that you need initially, at least until level 51. If you're still at that stage, you're going to find a ton of them in there for you to level up all of the gear slots and get even more powerful. Now moving on next, another important resource is ebon iron. We're gonna use this to level up the mystic skill, and one of the most straightforward and free ways of getting these is by opening up the protected chests inside small enemy encampments. You're going to oftentimes stumble upon these smaller camps with like 3 all the way to 5 enemies, typically protecting a treasure. Well, if you defeat all of them, you can then claim the treasure, and one of the resources inside will also be the ebon iron every single time. So especially once you get alliance skills and also the permit for the current region, this is going to become even quicker as you will freely move across the map with great speed. There are other methods to get these in, but typically they will involve spending other resources like energy. For example, challenge outposts and joint battles will obviously claim some of your energy, but you can also use the event Dawn to Dusk. Every few days you will also get some extra ebon iron as well. Now, possibly one of the most time-consuming and resource-heavy farms you're going to have in this game is obviously going to be for the inner ways nodes. These are going to be by far the most difficult to get because most of the processes here are purely RNG. Even opening up these chests, as you can see, do not guarantee getting the specific node that you need. However, leveling up and breaking through your inner ways is one of the most surefire ways of massively improving your damage potential. So first things first, every week go to the shop, offers, exchange shop, and then seasonal shop, and you will want to purchase both of these martial arts custom tips chests that you have a limited weekly cap of about like 35. So that's going to set you back 160 jade fish per piece, which more than fits on the 20,000 jade fish limit cap that you can earn every week. And I'm going to show you other methods of getting it in just a little bit too. So in this case, that's going to more than cover quite a few of the stuff that you need, but like I said, it's still going to be RNG. Other methods will also involve spending some kind of resources. The next one being, of course, your wandering path, and specifically we have a couple of them. First things first, every week and every level breakthrough, you're going to want to do the first clear of all of these sword trials. As you can see, you're going to get, besides the 3 weekly chests, you will also get another 3 for the first time completion, ensuring that you get 6 in total. And it goes all the way to level 71, so I highly recommend you go through at least the first clear here. From that point on, you will focus on a combination between the regular sword trial, outpost challenges, or the campaign challenges bosses, depending which gear pieces that you also need. So in this way, you're going to get them regardless. That's why you're going to focus on whichever most important gear piece you need next. Now, once you have gotten a whole bunch of these nodes, you likely notice that you got them for some of the inner arts that you also don't plan on using. From this point on, you will want to go right here into your inner way section, go to the tips exchange here in the middle, and from this point on, we can recycle some of our existing nodes into vintage book plates that we can then use to buy even more of these tome chests. So in this case, you will see that every single one of them will give you a certain number of them, from rare all the way to legendary. You will get increasingly higher counts of the booklets, but in this case only sacrifice the ones that you absolutely don't plan on using. For me, for example, I will never play as a healer, so I'm just going to sacrifice those. From here, we're simply going to purchase the chest depending on the type of weapons we're using. So I'm going with a strategic sword build, which is why the blue Bell Strike chest is the one most appropriate for me. However, there is one more thing here to talk about, which is conversion. As you can see, you can convert some of the, let's just say, progress of one of your inner ways to one of another. However, what that literally means is exchanging the number of tickets or notes you have from one to the other. This only works with purples and legendary inner ways, by the way, and the only thing that it does is that it swaps the number of nodes you have available for each of them. So let's say one of them has 0 nodes and the other one has, I don't know, like 2 or 5. You're going to exchange the one that has 0 with the number that the one has to the other side, so 2, 3, 5, or however many it is. That is why you may not want to waste this with inner ways that already have at least like a handful of nodes, and focus on ones that have like 0 and whatnot, so that you limit the number of nodes that get wasted. But this is going to have a limited amount of times you can do it every season, which means you can technically swap back if you want to. There are some other slightly more straightforward ways of also acquiring these, which includes also going to the path guide and completing the challenge tracks over here. So this is going to give you straight up exactly the nodes that you need, 10 of them in total for the legendary variant at the 12 and 18 challenge mark, which will take quite a bit of time because the UI is broken and you cannot even read the description properly to see exactly what you need to do, but eventually if it gets fixed, we should be able to get the 10 of them that we need by the time we get 18 of the challenges completed. Technically, we also have the blue side quests besides another method I will show you separately in just a little bit, which can also work. So complete blue side missions as well. Sometimes they may give you some of these chests too. Which brings us to our next farm, and that is getting your treasure seeker exploration skill right away. This is going to make it so much easier to farm up chests because now they will pretty much appear on your map from very far away. So you will now literally see them from so far away that it's going to trivialize your chest running. And trust me, this is going to give you even more resources like oscillating Jade, which also need that enhancing, plus a ton of XP, exploration, and a lot more Echo Jade. And these are pretty much everywhere, especially in Kaifeng. You can find a ton of them everywhere. But to farm these, like I said, you will need 3 requirements. One includes having total aspiration attributes of at least 600, which is actually quite doable. More important will be having 75 perception and 75 elegance especially. But 75 perception is pretty easy because perception is given to you both when collecting oddities plus when you do some of the archery challenges, so focus on those. However, more difficult will be getting the elegance. And you're going to mainly do that in 2 ways. One is by petting cats. It's going to give you 1 point for each of the cats, and also by tasting gourmet meals. So let me show you what I mean by that. You can immediately find at least 10, if not more than 10 cats right here at the Meow Meow Temple in the first region. Going around the main shop, you will see that there's quite a lot of them, so they will count towards this as well. Pet them, and that's going to be an easy 10 to 12 points. You also have a couple more right here upwards on the hill. From that point on, you will need to check out mostly human settlements, especially around houses and whatnot. You will see that most of the villages will have at least 1 cat, so go there. Otherwise, I recommend using any interactive map out there and focusing on the cat petting activity. You're going to find at least like 20 to 30 cats in the first region alone, which is more than enough. From that point on, another way is, of course, tasting those gourmet meals, and for this, you're going to want to pay attention to the food stalls that you again find all across human settlements, villages, so anywhere where you will see houses and other human activity. In this case, pay attention to these vendors, and what you want to do is purchase each of the meals from them. One is going to give you 1 point, the other will give you the other point, so that's 2 points per stall. But of course, you will find even more at Kaifeng, so this should go really quickly if you combine both the methods. But while we're here, we can actually combine this with a third farming method that will give us even more inner way chests, which is by maxing out our reputation by buying up the food and maxing out the XP with all of these food stall cooks. So in that case, you will need commerce coins. You can easily get like 20,000 every week from the Meow Meow Temple, and as you can see, it literally only costs 1 of those like cat caps that you can literally get by completing any cat activity out there. So really easy. One of them is going to be more than enough, and you can find these all across the map. That's going to be more than enough to max this out, so simply go to these food stalls and purchase the cheaper meals at only 15 commerce coins. Even though they are like 3 times less expensive than the more expensive ones, they still give you half of the XP, so 10 instead of 20, which means it's way less expensive to fully max out the 200 or so reputation that you need with that specific merchant. So every time you do this, you're going to get 2 of those inner waste chests. So like you can see right here, we already got like 20 of them in a relatively short amount of time, like 10-15 minutes of farming this, so totally worth it. And we got another way of maxing out our inner waste too. Anyway, let's keep on going because the next farm is definitely going to be more on your liking. This is going to involve bounty hunting. So if you go to any martial billboard, you're going to find them all across the map, in Kaifeng and also in some of the villages. You will see that especially vendetta and bounty hunting challenges give you tons of resources. Especially so both of these give you at least 100, if not 150 fourfold coins, which you will need for the bounty hunting outfit, but also like 750 or 500 at the very least jade fish, which is going to be some of the highest for how quick they are. So just for the starting region, if I were to take up any bounty against just regular mobs, you can see they can go down really quickly and you will get those resources really fast. You won't see me getting the Jade fish in this footage because I already got the 20,000 weekly limit here, but it's going to become important next week upon reset. But we can at least use the fourfold coins in the bounty shop. There is going to be another set of cosmetics here that in total will set you back like 60-70,000 plus if you're purchasing everything. So you will need to farm those quite a bit, but because it doesn't cost any energy for the bounties, it is going to be worth it. And I think that the armor set looks pretty nice. The only other recommendation that I have in terms of farming methods is one that I covered before. If you really want more gacha pulls and want the lingering melodies, you know, if you're not as unlucky as I am, you may want to take part in the samurai challenges you see across the map. Again, an interactive map that I posted below will help with it. So every single one that you complete, assuming that you meet its minimum level requirement, will give you lingering melodies, plus even more of some of these, of course, stones that we're going to use in upgrading our mystic arts. But besides that, you're obviously going to use these to draw, so if you're not quite as unlucky as I am, you may get something useful. But that pretty much covers today's video. Of course, there are other farming methods out there, including collecting flowers, but I think that that's going to be pretty straightforward since we covered hunting, which is quite similar. Do, however, let me know down in the comments if there are other farms that you have been doing on repeat for other ways of upgrading your character. In the meantime, as always, if you found this video useful, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and activate the bell button, and I'll see you in the next video.